Okay, I'm gonna talk to you guys about a time period in my bipolar story that I kind of refer to as the foggy years. Um, because a lot happened. I was in a deep depression, and medication and treatments and things like that just kind of make things muddled. So I'm doing the best I can as far as the timeline goes. So, I wasn't able to work after I was first diagnosed, and so we didn't have my income, me and my fiance, and we didn't, and I was pretty much supporting us, and also my insurance didn't do, it just did like a percentage of the pharmacy coverage, and so I got in a lot of debt paying for treatments and medication out of pocket, and for financial reasons for a few months or a couple months I went to live with my mom and my stepdad. It was supposed to be a temporary situation. There was a date specifically that I was to return to go with my fiance back across state when he graduated. School I paid for, helped pay for, and he got his first job and first paycheck. It was a very specific day, and I had it marked on a calendar, and I marked off each day. Also, in this time period before I left, and I was just starting on medication, in particular Depakote, and the depression, lack of physical activity, emotional eating, and the medications causing the cravings of sugary, bready stuff, I started to gain weight. And when I left to go to my mom's place, I wasn't the tiny, cute, little petite thing he liked to brag about to his friends and show off. You know, I gained about 20 pounds, and I could see in his eyes the disapproval and tone of voice, which was hurtful. And so I kind of knew, but I wasn't prepared for being dumped. I was really abandoned at my mother's house by him. Just a few days before I was supposed to go back, I had called, and I was so excited, and oh, I can't wait to get back, and he said that, well, I'm not really sure I want you to come back. And so that was the end of that. Maybe I was getting my own, for being in this relationship, pretending to be straight, but I was still devastated, and I was still very angry at him, because to me, he stole what I worked so hard for, what I worked hard for to give my family, for me to get married and have children, and anyway, that made me bitter, angry, and devastated, and I was mentally ill, and now I was fat, and I started to wail at that moment, and I didn't stop for some time, not crying, but literally wailing, like a banshee, just sobbing loudly, and for days. And then I just went blank, catatonic, didn't move, and I stayed that way for about a year. I was so blank in my head. I was in that blank, catatonic, empty. I wasn't even depressed, there was just nothing there. I didn't brush my teeth because the process, I couldn't figure it out. It seemed so complex. There were days, rarely, that I could go, okay, first step, sit up in the bed. Second step, stand up. You know, most of the time I couldn't even get that far. I mean, I wasn't even brushing my teeth, changing my clothes. I wasn't even getting out of bed. And I saw a few different psychiatrists that had different ways of dealing with this. One psychiatrist's answer was to just keep adding medication, you know, and another one was got angry at me for not getting better. And another was really pressuring me to get ECT. He seemed to be really high on ECT, really eager. He was doing a study, so he wanted everybody that came through the door to get ECT. And one of the nurses even said to me, in regards to me refusing it, I can't make you want to get better. I was put on medication that only made the depression worse, the slowness worse, the difficulty to think worse. Things like Risperidol, Depakote, you know, anti-anxiety meds, and just lots of medication, and it just made me even more numb, and just like I'd had a lobotomy. Messed up. And therapy, I couldn't even really effectively participate in therapy, so that's not helping. A long time went by, and I really was tired. I mean, over a year, I was tired of being this way. I got desperate, and I signed the paper for ECT. I wish I never had. I will say that there are some people that get benefit from ECT. I'm not one of them, and my doctors now know that I never, under any circumstances. I believe I got bilateral ECT, which is, I guess, a bigger zap than unilateral. It's supposed to give less side effects, which are short-term memory loss during the time you're getting it, and sort of being numb and shuffling gait, things like that. I got 6 or 9, I don't remember. In a way, it was very humiliating because while I was in the hospital getting them, I couldn't take care of myself, and I even wet the bed more than once, wet myself, and nurses had to help me clean up and change my clothes. And I was really in no mental state legally to have signed the paper and okayed ECT. I really think that I was taken advantage of, that my mental state was taken advantage of in getting ECT. This was in the 90s, later 90s. So, ECT helped minimal for 2 weeks, lifted the depression. That is right back where I started. But now I also had permanent short-term memory problems, and parts of my past completely wiped clean. And especially in surrounding this time period, I have to rely on other people for a lot of memories and things. So I won't be doing that again. So, what finally worked? What finally worked? I'll tell you what finally worked. Penny, my miniature pinscher, we got